Kevin Gordon here from Autosavant.com with your January 26th edition of the Afternoon Commute. Will be a brief one today, only have two things to talk about. Would have had three, but our editor-in-chief, Chris Hock, wrote a nice piece about the diesel BMW M models that are planned for the near future, talking a little bit about what has the BMW M brands become. So if you haven't already, hop over to the site and take a look there. I wanted to talk through two things today. Ford as a company and how they're doing, and also to talk through the discussion of turbo lag, because a lot of people who use the term turbo lag, in my opinion, and I believe the true opinion, use it incorrectly. So I wanted to talk through that a little bit. So starting with Ford, this morning Bloomberg reported that Ford, due to a one-time tax savings, should post a very large profit, potentially the largest profit that they've seen since 2008. And if you followed Ford's stock price, it's down a little bit today, but it's been up. You know, it's sat around 10 for quite a while, and it's up in the 12s finally. And you know, all signs from a financial standpoint point to good for Ford. And you know, if you looked at the North American International Auto Show, both Mark Fields, the U.S. president, and Alan Muley, the CEO, are really pretty proud of what they've done with Ford without taking bailout money. Well, later in the day, Forbes posted an article. It basically said that Ford shouldn't really get too cocky quite yet. And I was kind of wondering why. If you read the first page of it, it basically says, you know, they're in great shape. But the next page goes on to talk about the fact that a lot of Ford's products, so starting with the Fiesta, which is almost marketed as a premium product in the marketplace, is now sitting on dealer lots for a really long time. I believe the average time on lots above 100 days. Next up, the Focus, also priced as almost a premium product in its segment, is living for much longer than 60 days. And if you look at the year over years on a few of their other products, the Taurus, I believe the Mustang, the Explorer, all of those are down year over year. The cars that are selling really well, like we talked about during the 10 best-selling cars of the years episode of the Afternoon Commute, are the Fusion and the Escape. Both cars in the last year of their life cycle. So Forbes' theory is that people are really just cashing in on buying highly discounted models, which is the reason for such high sales volume, and not necessarily that Ford has absolutely, you know, hit one out of the park on their new products and new designs. So I thought it was a really interesting thing, and something that, in all honesty, I had not thought about at all. Whenever people talk to me about who I think is doing, you know, as well or better than anybody else, I always bring up Ford and how, you know, proud of them I am as an American for what they did. But it's an interesting thing that, you know, GM, right before they fell through the ground, also was proud to the point of almost being arrogant about the fact that they were untouchable. So Ford does need to continue to work on pounding out class-leading products and potentially working on getting them to be at class-leading prices to continue with their success. Moving on to the concept of turbo lag. So turbo lag is typically defined as what happens when you drive a turbocharged car like this Ford F-150 EcoBoost, and you step on the gas, and the time that it takes between the time you step on the gas and the time you feel that surge of power that comes from a turbocharged application. What I want to be clear about is, if you're at low RPM and you step on the gas and there's time before you feel that rush of power come on, that may not be turbo lag, because a turbocharger needs to get to the point that it's in its range of efficiency before it effectively starts to create boost or, you know, additional pressure in the manifold, which then allows the car to produce extra power by applying extra fuel. There's a boost threshold typically designed into most turbochargers. And the easiest way I can think to explain this is, and it's an experience probably not everybody's had, but if you look at YouTube, you probably have seen, is back in the 90s, Toyota Supras were cars that, without ridiculous modifications, you could turn into 1,000 horsepower cars. And to do that, what people would do was put on the, lovingly called watermelon-sized turbo onto a Supra. Well, in doing that, what you'd wind up with is a car that made almost no boost below 4,500 or 5,000 RPM, but then it would come on like a light switch. I mean, these are cars that in a roll-on in fourth gear, when boost came on, would just blow the rear tires off. What was happening below 4,500 was not turbo lag. What turbo lag actually would have been as you were driving it in a range, so say above 4,500 RPM, then you applied the gas. The time that it took to spool the turbo and start to apply boost would actually have been the turbo lag. Outside of that, the turbo wouldn't have been in its, operating threshold or boost threshold in order to come on and work. From there, you can obviously go on to talk about everything that's being done these days to continue to expand that boost threshold or that range of operating efficiency. There's multi-vane, variable vane turbos, and turbos that have multiple paths through them, like I used to have on the 2000 RDX. It was literally at a flap that at low RPM, so at lower exhaust gas pressures, it would route the exhaust gases in one direction, and a higher would route it in another, making the turbocharger more efficiently. Also, you can make lighter weight internal rotating parts of a turbocharger, which helps it spool faster, spin faster with less exhaust gas pressure. So just wanted to take the time to go through and explain that. It's one of those things that I see quite frequently about people talking about, oh, it's got terrible lag down low. Well, it might not actually be lag. Lag might not actually be the right term of what you're talking about there. It's just that that car at that RPM isn't really within its operating threshold to create boost, and as a result isn't really making that rush of horsepower that you normally feel until higher in its operating range. So that's it for today. A quick afternoon commute. Once again, I'm Kevin Gordon from Autosavant.com, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.